From San Antonio, Texas, the home of VTDRB, this is an ODA presentation. Welcome to this session specially designed for certification engineers. I'm Julie Svoboda. Whether you are new to certification or have years of experience, the helpful information presented here will feature methods, processes, tools, and requirements for successful project completion. Different narrators will be participating. You will see their names at the bottom of the screens. So let's get started with certification engineering training.
As a child, nobody dreams of growing up to become a certification engineer. In fact, very few people even understand what a certification engineer is. There are no courses taught in school that explain it. Friends and family members nod their head as you explain your job without fully understanding. And the role is different depending on the company you work with. This doesn't mean there are no expectations, though. On the contrary, it's even more important to understand those expectations placed on certification engineers in this wonky environment so that you can be successful. Because the VTDRB ODA can work with any applicant, the project supported can involve many different certification groups. Not only is there two company groups that directly interface with the ODA, both VTDRB and BHE, but all of the customer certification departments as well, and they don't necessarily know anything about pushing a project through the ODA processes. That's where our expertise lies, and where we've created a service that can be offered to others. As a business, this is critical to understand. We're offering our services to make a profit, so that affects the goals we have and the responsibilities placed on each person. So let's talk about these goals. The first goal is to effectively follow standardized processes to achieve ODA project approvals. There are some key elements in this goal that need to be discussed. First, let's focus on the word standardized. In some ways, this can be viewed as a real negative. Synonyms that come to mind might be cookie cutter or repetitious, non-thinking or routine. Joy comes from words like that. That perspective can be very boring, but it's not really intended to be. There's a difference in being a certification engineer in any old company out there and working within the ODA sphere. In an old company, a certification engineer may be the only person focused on FAA compliance, so may feel isolated when trying to ensure certain rules are met or when technical questions come up that they don't have the background or knowledge to answer. In some companies, they may be rewarded for cutting corners, so the focus is on getting things accomplished in the shortest time frame possible without interest in downstream consequences. In some companies, certification engineers are purely administrative personnel and aren't expected to fully understand the certification process, the FAA, or safety standards. They are only responsible for getting the paper in its place, release documents, take direction from the technical engineers, or serve as spot checkers. This isn't the role a certification engineer working within VTDRB is expected to fill, nor BHE either. In the ODA environment, a certification engineer is an expert of the processes being followed, knowing why the identified steps are in place and where there's a little bit of wiggle room. Standardized doesn't mean automatic, so a certification engineer is engaged to be able to guide an applicant on what is required and what drives that requirement. Using that knowledge, the certification engineer becomes a key player in driving improvements that help the company be effective, timely, and in the end, more profitable in achieving the compliance objectives. Additionally, the certification engineers in the ODA would serve as advocates and a buffer to the customers. Often, they're the front line to complaints like, "We've never had to do this," or "Why can't we skip that?" Sometimes the customer's right, and sometimes they're not. The experienced certification engineer will often be the one to explain the reasons for why a process, a task, a certain expectation is in place. To be effective, a certification engineer must balance customer needs and ODA requirements. There's no reason to spend hours on something that doesn't add value to a project. The knowledge the certification engineer provides helps to identify areas that are non-value added and help meet the overarching goal. Provide services that help the business be profitable. Of course, it is not in the company's best interest to be profitable without ensuring safety. The second goal is to ensure all projects are completed in a safe manner. Safety should be embedded in everything we do. It's often easy to forget safety when there's a deadline to get a project complete. Sometimes the effect of a process step or a compliance document's effect on safety is not really apparent. A certification engineer isn't the only gatekeeper when it comes to making decisions that affect safety, but do serve to ensure that we follow all the key process steps that help make sure safety isn't forgotten. For example, identifying all the checks that need to be completed before flight testing begins is a way to keep safety in the forefront. It's important to know which tasks have an effect, or defining the critical areas of a design so that more focus is placed in the right areas, whether this be for inspection purposes or identifying potential hazards. Working through the steps should be thoughtful and with critical thinking caps on, not just to put something together so you can check a completion box.
The final primary goal of a certification engineer is to effectively manage a project's compliance effort. Often, certification engineers don't realize they are project managers. But in this environment, project management skills are critical. Project management is about balancing 4 key areas: scope, schedule, budget, and quality. As a certification engineer, understanding the scope of the project and being able to relay the information to the rest of the team is extremely valuable in being able to meet some of the primary objectives of being a project manager, as shown. So how do you do this?
The ability to meet a customer's needs, schedule, and all of the requirements starts with a solid plan. It's not always possible to know what you don't know, but a good plan only comes from understanding the full scope of a project. Engage with engineering, customer discussions, and documented requirements to fully know what needs to happen to reach the expected endpoint. This allows you to create a comprehensive certification plan, as well as know when scope creep may be occurring or that more definitions may be needed. The point is to eliminate surprises. It's much easier to get everyone working in the same direction if there's a complete definition of the work to be accomplished.
The best certification engineers, project managers, are experts at communicating up, down, and all around. They keep everyone in the loop so that the right information is shared with the right people. Early in a project, responsibilities are defined for everyone participating so that the team knows who is doing what and everyone can commit to supporting the effort. Status information and project changes are provided regularly and accurately so that all involved can adapt, understand potential problems, and help solve issues that arise. And finally, good communication ends up making sure that all the right people are involved in decision making so that the best choices are made.
As a business that offers a service, our profit is based on getting paid for the time we invest into a project. We estimate how much time the effort will take up front and then track to see how well we perform compared to that estimate. Going over the estimate cuts into the profitability of a project. Being too far under raises concerns about the quality and effort we put into a task. Being accurate in our time tracking is extremely important. Having actual information helps us gauge performance, understand the time something truly takes, and allows us to bid projects with knowledgeable numbers rather than just guessing. All of this helps us meet the primary goal of being a profitable business. So remember, capture actual time for project tasks you complete as accurately as you can.
The final attribute we'll cover that is needed to effectively manage projects is the ability to be an advocate for the customer, company, and ODA. This is bringing leadership or a proactive approach to your projects. By understanding the customer's needs, the company's objectives, and the ODA requirements, you are in the best position to facilitate good solutions to issues that may arise. This may require you to initiate a review of the regulations to understand expectations fully so that options can be developed for a unique design challenge. Or it may be when you recognize that a process step could be done a different way that allows the achievement of all parties in a better manner. There are many opportunities that arise where certification engineers' expertise and background provide the impetus for making a change that can benefit everyone.
Let's talk a little bit about the most common mistakes for oversights. From the FAA perspective, the most common thing they see is folks don't follow the processes identified in the procedures manual. It can't be emphasized enough. Pull the manual out and look at the process to make sure all the steps are done every single time. Another common mistake that we see repetitively revolves around poor writing or editing. Documents are written using cut and paste or reusing past project documents and not cleaning up the old information. Titles don't make sense. amendment projects talk about an initial STC project, or the information sounds like the original approval rather than speaking to the actual scope of the project at hand. Read what you've written, and remember the audience also needs to understand what's been written. The information needs to flow well. As discussed in the tool module, we've got a lot of them to help you remember what to do, to provide standardization and make life easier. Lots of folks seem to think that using tools are optional, and they can do the job a lot better without a tool. When we first introduced 8100-9 forms generated from a database, there were a number of unit members who said, "I've been writing my own approvals for years, and I can do this on my own just fine." There are several instances with several unit members having this approach, who made errors over and over when generating the form on their own. Tools are not a panacea, but we're all human. We'll all be more effective using the tools and report features to find errors than searching for a needle in a haystack or thinking we'll know. We have too many examples of when errors are made with this attitude. Use the tools.
In wrapping up this segment on the expectations placed on a certification engineer, realize that we've only touched on a few topics. Of course, your direct manager will have other conversations with you that further define what they expect, provide feedback on where changes may be needed, and also solicit your ideas on how to meet the company's objectives better. Remember to keep these discussions open so that we can all meet the expectations that are placed on each of us.